Here's a random fact about me that no one asked for. My biggest goal in life is to become multifaceted in different forms of art. Game design, drawing, directing, filmmaking, and story writing to be more specific. Why is this important? Well, being a multiple... That's not what the script says. I'm off to a great start. Being a fan of multiple different franchises and forms of media have also caused me to come up with my own ideas for stuff that I would do with these franchises. And that brings us to today's video. I've had the very unfortunate pleasure of becoming a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog for the majority of my almost 21 years spent on this miserable planet. And in that time, I've had a lot of ideas for things that I would create with this blue fuckboy. Characters, a movie idea, a show idea, stop motions at one point, but the topic of today's video is my idea for a Sonic game. Every Sonic fan, for better or for worse, has their own ideas for what direction they'd want to take the franchise if given the opportunity to be in charge of a Sonic game. But what would I, Mr. Soul Omar Light, do if Team Sonic decided it was my turn to direct the Sonic game? Let's take a walk and find out. But before we start, there's something I want to make clear. I started concepting, I fucking hate this fucking word, this thing at the beginning of 2018, right after Sonic Forces came out. The way that garbage turned out really made me sit down and start thinking about what it is I want from a Sonic game. As you can tell from the length of this video, I went all out on this, so I hope you guys are in for the long haul, because we're going to be here for a while. So if you're done with that, let's get this going. So what even is my game idea? Well... That's right, this project is called Sonic Chaos Adventure. If this looks familiar, it's because there's a fan project currently in development by the same name that I just so happen to be the project head of. Before SCA became the planned motion comic series that it is, it started out as this game idea. All the art used in this video was made by some amazing artists who also happen to spend their time working on SCA, and all of their Twitters will be linked down below. So before we get into the deep details, I want to start by giving a bit of context. Sonic Chaos Adventure acts as a soft reboot to the main series. All of the previous main games, except for Forces, would be canon to the events of this one, with Lost World and the Lost Hex situation... The Lost Hex situation being the last main event to happen in the timeline. The really big difference here is that in this new rebooted story, Team Sonic essentially operates in a manner similar to the Avengers. Just like how the Avengers essentially do their own thing, but will also do ops for S.H.I.E.L.D., Team Sonic is the same way, occasionally doing ops for GUN. When Team Sonic formed after the events of Shadow the Hedgehog, they made a deal with GUN that allows them to operate on their own as a freelance group just as long as they're willing to act when GUN needs them. With Team Sonic being formed after the events of Shadow, this causes the events of the main series games that follow to be rewritten to include Team Sonic as a group. For example, instead of it being just Sonic, Tails, and Chip trying to put the planet back together during the events of Unleashed, all of Team Sonic is present. The same goes for Colors and Lost World and their stories being rewritten to include the whole team. This is to have a better sense of continuity in this new rebooted story. The other big thing for this game is that the events of 06 did happen, and it wasn't erased from anyone's memory this time. This would make the appearance of Crisis City in Generations make a lot more sense, and would also explain why Silver is still here, which will be explained later on in this video. I mentioned twice before that Team Sonic as a group was formed after the events of Shadow. This would mean that the modern stories that took place before Shadow, including this story itself, would remain mostly the same, just with a few changes to make the stories a little more coherent, and in Adventure 2, in Shadow's cases, make the stories actually good. One last thing I want to bring attention to is the timeline. Once this idea turned into the bigger project, Waze, one of the assistant heads, helped me put together a more refined timeline to help better place the events of the main games. The classic games, being 1, 2, CD, 3 and Knuckles, and Mania, all take place in year 1. The adventure games, being Adventurer, Adventure 2, Heroes, Shadow, and 06, all take place in year 2, and the modern games, being Unleashed, Colors, Generations, Lost World, and now Chaos Adventure, all take place in year 3. This hopefully adds a little bit more cohesion to the events of everything, and hopefully the placement of everything makes sense. Anyways, that was just a little overview. I know I didn't go too in depth here, but I hope that what I did lay out gives a better foundation for the world that's being created here. The lore of Sonic has a very interesting foundation and can actually be something really intriguing, but only if Sega did what they needed to do instead of, holding themselves back with all of these fucking mandates and shit. Maybe in a future video, I could try to elaborate more on this, but we'll see. If it wasn't obvious, Team Sonic doesn't just consist of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles this time around. With that being the case, who exactly is our Team Sonic? Well, let's start with the main man himself, Sonic the Hedgehog. If this design and the designs coming up look familiar, they are also the designs of Team Sonic in the SCA motion comic project. I had the idea of changing up the looks for the characters to give the game a fresh look and its own identity from the other games in the series. I carried the idea over to SCA, and with help from the artist, the ideas were much more refined. Sonic acts as the leader of Team Sonic. Obvious fucking Lee. He retains his usual cocky and confident attitude that he's known for, and he still has a sense of heroism. That's the script line, heroism. He has a want to do the right thing, and he doesn't hesitate to put himself in danger to keep everyone safe. There's nothing really different about him this time around, aside from the fact that he's a bit older, being 17 instead of 15. In terms of his design, the artist Giga had the idea of combining both the soap and classic shoes, with the rings taking the place of the buckles. The black gloves might take a second to get used to, but I really like them. Giga also had the idea of giving him grip pads on his gloves. Sonic is an athletic character, so I feel like this makes a lot of sense. After him comes Shadow the Hedgehog. Acting as like a second leader to Team Sonic, Shadow gets a bit more of a change this time around. His personality is more along the lines of his incarnation from Heroes. This says 06, why the fuck do I keep saying Heroes? Not being a brooding edgelord every 5 damn seconds, and not acting like how he does in IDW due to stupid mandates. He's more so a calm and collected guy who tries to keep everyone focused and tries to keep everyone's head leveled in order to keep order in the group. Even though he's a member of Team Sonic, he also still acts as a high-ranking agent for GUN, kind of like Black Widow and Hawkeye being agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. while still being in the Avengers. Shadow's design is really simple compared to Sonic's, not really much to elaborate on. Rounding out Triple S, we have Silver the Hedgehog. After his future was saved at the end of 06, he realized returning home would mean that he would go back to being alone. Iblis is gone, and the flames that flood his world are gone too, but the people, the animals, the plant life, basically everyone and everything is also gone as well. Because of this, he decides to stay in the past with Sonic & Co., joining Team Sonic and basically acting as the voice of reason whenever Sonic and Shadow start butting heads. Giga wanted to make it seem like Silver was more from the future than in his usual design, with the scarf that has strings made of psychic energy, and I think he really does a good job with this. The brains of the group, Miles Tails Prower, Sonic's best friend and right-hand man. We're just gonna pretend like that bullshit in Colors and Lost World, and Forces especially, didn't happen in terms of his character, because this Tails is actually competent and doesn't stand around like a little punk bitch crying for help. Not only is he good with tech, he also gets involved with the action like he's supposed to. He's also been aged up from 8 to 14, and he dons a scarf this time around, as well as an updated version of his arm cannon from Sonic Battle, giving him an alternate attack method. Everyone's favorite black man, Nigga the Echidna, Knuckles the Echidna. That's his name. This Master Emerald Guardian gives his time to help out Team Sonic whenever he can. He's still a bit of a hothead, and he still has his temper, but is learning to keep a much more level head and keep things under control. To address the question of him always leaving the Master Emerald unattended, Tails and his partner created a defense system to protect the Master Emerald whenever he's gone. For his design, the shovel claws have been permanently attached to his gloves this time for extra damage. Amy Rose acts as the voice of reason for the group. While Shadow keeps everyone on track when it comes to missions, she makes sure everyone is keeping calm and not going wild. Her crush on Sonic is still in play,
but it's not as accentuated as it was before, and it isn't her only defining character trait. The pink hedgehog actually gets more heavily involved in action this time too, with her upgraded hammer and ability to go invisible. Yes, I'm keeping that as a thing. She also has been aged up from 12 to 15, and she wears a more combat-ready dress this time around, as well as the warrior feather being a permanent accessory on her headband. Cream the rabbit is a little different this time around. She's still the sweet and innocent rabbit we all know and love, but she has a little bit more sass and attitude to her, being 13 now instead of 6. She's still being accompanied by her Chao companion Cheese, and her tech skills have also gotten an upgrade, with her almost being on the same level as Tails. She's the partner that helped him build the defense system for the Master Emerald. Being a bit older this time around, I want her outfit to reflect this, and Dreamy did a good job of this. Everyone's questionably favorite Batgirl Rouge the Bat is also here. She's still the same Rouge she always been, also operating in a manner similar to Shadow, working for GUN whenever they need her, and her love for Jules is still heavily in play, but she's actually way more willing to work together as a team with everyone than she usually is. Rouge's design is more of a combination of her heroes and regular outfits, with the Scouter that also acts as a communicator. Rounding out Team Sonic, we have the Soul Dimension Princess herself, Blaze the Cat. After Sonic helped her save her dimension twice, she decided to stay with Team Sonic to return the favor. There's nothing really different about her character this time around though, she's mostly the same. Blaze still dons a dress of some kind with a catsuit under it. A nice attention to detail that Giga included was making Blaze's shoes similar to Sonic's, like her regular shoes are. Dr. Eggman is obviously here to ruin everybody's day. There's nothing different about him at all because he's been the best written character in the series ever since the hiring of Sonic connoisseurs Pontac and Graf. He's accompanied by Orbot and Cubot, of course. He's accompanied by Orbot and Cubot, of course, and newcomer to the bunch, Cordovan. Eggman's plan this time around is one for the books, I think. Eggman's design is also really simple this time around. That's just a quick overview of the important characters in this rebooted universe. I wanted to try and establish a better foundation for the characters this time around, seeing as I haven't really been a big fan of how they've been written recently. Hopefully Ian Flynn coming in to write the story for Frontiers will mean good news for basically everything revolving around the series, characters, and lore. I keep fucking saying characters, series, and lore. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, I can't exactly go too in-depth with the story summary, seeing as how the story for this game is the same as the one for SEA. If you follow SEA, you should have a general idea of what we're working with here, but just in case you don't, here's a little synopsis. One night in GUN headquarters, Dr. Eggman is resting anxiously in his cell, which he's been in for a while since he's been taken into custody after his last attack. While agents are on patrol, a small army of Eggman's robots break into the base with the goal of busting the Doctor out of the organization's custody. After the attack, GUN seeks out the help of Sonic the Hedgehog. The commander says that Sonic, after he agrees, should inform the rest of Team Sonic that they have a mission, only to be met with the news that Team Sonic has been separated since the attack that got Eggman locked up in the first place. So Sonic, after telling Tails, is tasked with reforming Team Sonic to have an easier time fighting against Eggman, as well as learning how to work together as a team again once they're all back together. That's just the general idea of the story for this game. Something I've always wanted was another Sonic story that focused more so on the characters while also paying close attention to the overarching plot. Black Knight was really the last time we got something like this, and I really want to see it done again. Again, leaving that fate up to Frontiers is probably a really bad idea since we don't really know anything about the game right now, but shut up. This is probably the aspect of this whole thing that I put the most thought into, and rightfully so. I can live with the Sonic game, why did I say it like that? I can live with a Sonic game having a mediocre or even bad story as long as the game is fun to play, just like at Colors and Generations. In game idea videos like this, people usually choose one style of gameplay that Sonic has had to be the basis of the gameplay. For me, I wanted to try to bring in the best elements, in my opinion, of the main styles. For styles, that's not what the script says. For starters, the main gameplay itself is a more refined version of the adventure style with elements of boost thrown in there. Each stage throughout the course of the game will have a huge emphasis on speed, platforming, combat, and exploration, and will be designed with the idea of allowing any of the characters to get through it with no problem, and the characters being divided into speed, flight, and power like in Sonic Heroes. On top of that, every stage has 4 main pathways: the main path, the speed path, the flight path, and the power path. The main path is the straightforward path with multiple ways to reach the goal for any character.
The speed path is an alternate path with a different set of obstacles that only the speed characters can access and get through, and that's the same for flight and power on their respective paths. Something that's also unique to this game is the ability to choose who you want to play as before you enter a stage, and how many characters you want. For example, say you're at a point in the story that has Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, and you want to go into the next stage with Sonic and Amy. You can choose those two before the stage starts, and you can switch between them at any time. You can go through the stage with either 3 characters, 2 characters, or just 1, depending on how you want to play. I know a lot of people didn't really like the whole attempted combat that 06 had, but I for one did, and I kind of want that back in this game. So that would be here, as well as the enemies with health bars. I also didn't really have a problem with that. What I had an issue with was the fact that it took too fucking long to get rid of them, but that won't be the case in this game. With the added mix of speed, exploration, combat, and platforming, these aspects should make the stages of this game as enjoyable, fun, and replayable as possible. Gaining and maintaining speed is also important. Sonic might be the fastest character in the game, but every character has their own way of gaining speed to keep the flow going. Before talking about the actual characters themselves, I want to take a minute to talk about some of the stage ideas I came up with for this game. Some of them aren't the most creative and unique stage ideas in the world, but I'm proud of them. Waterfall Forest is a beautiful and lush forest that houses Tails' workshop within the depths of it. One of the set pieces I thought about was surfing on the water, using a log as a board, and using rocks as ramps to do tricks off of. Cybernetic Chaos is an Eggman excavation site that was shut down by GUN after Eggman's arrest. He used this site to mine for materials for Batniks, and it's littered with a bunch of broken Batnik parts. Gusty Mines is an abandoned subway system off the coast of Windy Valley that was planned to connect Station Square to the main city. It had its construction discontinued after a huge tornado struck the area. I had to take a break from recording because it took me 10 tries, almost, to get that fucking line right, and I got so heated that I didn't want to carry that over into the video. Just a little tidbit of information, a little fun fact. Scorching Oasis is a resort in the middle of the desert that people go to relax. This one is kind of weird because I don't really know how I'd turn this into an actual stage. Maybe more so a smaller hub world, but who knows. Ballistic Canyon is an open canyon space away from the main city. An Eggman base used to be here, with G-Wen taking it over after his arrest, and turning it into a field where they can test weapons and tech away from the civilians of the main city. Volcanic Terrain / Molten Bay is a volcanic area off the coast of Red Mountain. Raw chaos energy causes the main volcano in the area to violently erupt unexpectedly. Frostbitten Settlement is an Eggman base deep within Ice Cap. This base was abandoned after Eggman's arrest, and due to it not being well kept, the base is somewhat frozen and run down. These aren't all the stage ideas I had for the game, of course, but these are just some of the ideas. I wanted to add a bit more continuity by using established locations from the series as points of reference. I went like mad overboard with a lot of these, and I'm thankful to the artists that put in the work to bring them to life. But like, come on, tell me you wouldn't want to explore some of these places. Like they look amazing. Like, come on. Once a game without the characters, not a game, I'll tell you that. I'm like the funniest nigga on YouTube, dog, I swear. Anyways, throughout this whole process, I even went through the trouble of planning out movesets for each playable character. Why? I could not tell you, but I also don't think it matters. Let's get one thing out the way. I mentioned earlier that this game's gameplay would be a mixture of both adventure and boost. Well, everyone has their own unique moveset. Everyone has the ability to drift, quick step, stomp, and slide. With the game being mostly based on adventure, you would think that the characters wouldn't still need these moves, seeing as how they were implemented to help Sonic in a gameplay that's mostly played like a racing game, but I do feel like there's still a place for them, if implemented correctly. On top of that, each character category has a shared ability that the others don't have. Speed characters, if they run into a wall with a certain amount of speed, will automatically run along the wall to maintain the speed. I said speed 3 times just now. I'm so great with words. Anyways, speed characters can also run up buildings, not just along them. This requires them to have a lot more speed before hitting the wall head on. With enough speed, these characters can also vault over obstacles automatically to maintain their flow of movement. I said speed 3 times again. The words are my thing. Flight characters all have the ability to fly. If you couldn't tell from the fucking category name. This allows them to reach higher heights and locations that other characters can't. They also have the best mid-air control. Power characters can break through objects that block their way to access alternate pathways to the goal. They can also break through obstacles as a comparison to the speed character's ability to vault.
Now, talking about the individual characters, let's start with Sonic. He's a speed type, obviously, and he plays like how you would expect him to, though he's a little unique, having a roll instead of a slide and a bounce attack instead of the stomp. On top of this, he'll also have the homing attack to attack enemies, an air dash when there's nothing to lock onto, the spin dash for gaining speed in an instant, the light speed dash to quickly go along a trail of rings, the sonic wind attack as an alternate method to using the homing attack, and the drop dash, which is caused by charging the spin dash in midair. Shadow is a speed type, and as you would expect, he plays pretty similarly to Sonic. Having the roll instead of the slide, along with the homing attack, the air dash, the spin dash, the light speed dash, and the drop dash, the big difference is the implementation of his chaos powers. Instead of Sonic Wind, Shadow can fire a Chaos Spear, which stuns smaller enemies at base and one-shots them when fully charged. And just like in 06, Shadow will have a meter on the bottom of the screen that fills up as he defeats enemies. Also like in 06, there will be 3 levels, with them being Level 1, which will allow him to teleport short distances when homing, attacking, and air dashing. Level 2, which allows him to fire more than one Chaos Spear at a time. And Level 3, which gives him the ability to do Chaos Blast to clear all enemies in the way at once. Trying to make Silver fun to play is a bit tricky since there's no better version of him to go off of, so what better way to fix him than using aspects from fan games? The best way to describe Silver's gameplay is P06. For starters, he's a flight type, and he has the ability to levitate to reach higher and further areas. His kit also includes the ground shock instead of a stomp. It gets him to the ground faster, and it stuns smaller enemies while disorienting bigger ones. Psychokinesis, of course, which can grab stun enemies, enemy projectiles, and objects which can be thrown at other enemies. Psycho Blast, which one-shots smaller enemies and stuns bigger ones. Teleport Dash, which takes more meter to use but allows him to fly horizontally at a higher speed, though he can't fly vertically. Silver is definitely a character that can be revisited in terms of his moves, since he's the one that I'm the most unsure of, but hey, I'm kinda happy with what I came up with so far.
Even if it's just P06 again, but like, I don't know.
Tails is at his best in Adventure 1 in my opinion. Being a flight character, he can fly to reach greater heights as long as he has enough meter to do so, and his kit also includes his tailspin attack. It's a simple attack at a button press, but if you hold the button down, he continues to spin. This can also be used in midair, and landing one on an enemy will refill your flight meter a bit. As shown in the concept art for his design, Tails also has his arm cannon this time around. He can do single shots or a charge shot, both can be done in midair, and he has a flight dash. It's similar to Silver's
teleport dash in the way that it works.
Knuckles is kinda easy to figure out. Being a power type, he focuses more on combat. Instead of getting the stomp, he'll get his drill dive to get him to the ground faster and do a bit of extra damage. His kit also includes
the glide, of course, allowing him to glide across the air to reach locations in the distance. The ability to stick to walls and climb them. It's nowhere near as fast as wall running, but he has the ability to stay on the wall for a lot longer, and he has more freedom of movement. A basic punch combo to get the job done when fighting enemies. The drill run, when charged up, can run through enemies and take out smaller enemies with ease. When on the wall, the drill run is replaced with a pseudo spin dash that allows him to get up the walls faster. Drill diving into the ground causes him to automatically dig underground. You can control him for a bit while he burrows before coming back up with an uppercut like it's a fucking DP.
This dude woke up with a regular DP. I gotta quit.
Amy was really only fun to play in Heroes when she was borderline a Sonic clone. I wanted to make her own character this time around while still being fun to play. For starters, she's actually a power character, using her Pico Pico hammer to break objects. Her kit also includes a basic hammer combo for taking care of enemies, a double jump to access higher areas than a normal jump can. While running, she can hammer vault to launch herself in the air to clear greater distances. While airborne, she could do a hammer dive instead of the stomp to get her to the ground faster and do a bit of extra damage. She can do a hammer spin in a similar vein to Tails' tailspin and can also act like a small hover when in midair. And she could turn invisible to slip past certain obstacles and deal with enemies without them spotting her.
Cream has never really been in a playable role outside of the advanced games and Heroes, so she might be the trickiest to work with in terms of coming up with a moveset. Let's start with the fact that she's a flight type though. Just like Tails and Silver, she can fly for a certain amount of time, and she has a dash in the air just like the two of them as well. Her kit also includes using her ears to attack, as well as using cheese to attack as a contrast to Tails using his tails and his arm cannon. And I wanted to give her another method of defending herself. So she has these energy fields, similar to Aelita from Code Lyoko, that she can use as a long-range attack.
She can either do single shots or a charge shot.
Rouge, a power type, has a similar playstyle to Knuckles, like she always does. She can glide, climb, and drill dive just like him, but there's a few differences. Her kit includes a basic kick combo. Her attacks are faster but weaker than Knuckles. She has a drill kick that acts similarly to Knuckles' drill run, and she has a tornado kick which functions similarly to the green gem from 06. Last but certainly not least, we have Blaze. She's only had one playable appearance in 3D, being 06, so there's not much to work with, but I tried my best. For starters, she's a speed type, meaning she has the same parkour abilities that Sonic and Shadow have, as well as the homing attack, drop dash, and spin dash, but she does have a few differences. Her kit includes a double jump that gives her more height than Amy's, the ability to hover while in midair, a fire spin to make quick work of short enemies. That's not what the script says. A fire spin to make quick work of weaker enemies, and the ability to shoot fireballs for a long range option.
Long range option. What the fuck? They can be shot singular, or they can be shot in a charge shot. Like, you understand how this goes.
Before anyone asks, yes, I really did take the time to come up with full movesets for the playable characters in this game idea.
Why? Because I fucking hate myself.
In all seriousness, when I said at the beginning of this video that I went all out, I meant that. I was and still am very passionate about everything in this script, and I hope everything so far and everything to come reflects that. Unlike most Sonic fans, I genuinely enjoy hub worlds. Being able to play around with your abilities in a sandbox where you can't be bothered sounds fun, and in this game, hub worlds are back. The main hub world for this game is the city of Metropolis. Taking aesthetic cues from Force's version of the city, Metropolis is a giant sandbox in a similar vein to New York City from Spider-Man or Miles Morales. You can explore the city with any of the playable characters to talk to citizens, find collectibles, and complete side missions. The city takes aesthetic cues from Forces like I said earlier. It's my favorite looking area in the game and was actually something that looked interesting to explore. The game would turn it into an actual functioning city that regular people could live in, but keeping some of the Sonic personality, what the fuck, with highways suspended in the air, where cars drive automatically and the characters can become roadkill if they don't outrun them. Pah, I'm just kidding. Unless. There will also be some smaller hub worlds that limit the characters' abilities like the ones that Unleashed do. These include Team Sonic Headquarters, GU1's Metropolis base, and the Chao Garden entrance. Team Sonic Headquarters, if you couldn't guess it, is the home base for Team Sonic, their Avengers Tower essentially. All Marvel references from this point onward are being made specifically despite one individual in particular. You know exactly who you are. In here, they have Tails and Cream's lab, the training grounds, the main room, the kitchen, the garage, and the living quarters, where each of the members of the team has their own room. In each room, you can find various props and items that fit the characters. For example, in Sonic's room, you can find things like his extreme gear, the different shoes he's worn throughout the series, upgrades like the crystal ring, the bounce bracelet, flame ring, etc. Fun pictures like the ones of him and Chip from Unleashed, Chip's bracelet, stuff like that. I would go through each member's room, and trust me, I almost did, but I think you get the idea. I wanted to give each room... That's not what the script says. I wanted each room to be unique and seem like they really fit the characters they belong to. GU1's Metropolis base is where this branch of Metropolis... What? That's not what that says. Is where this branch of GU1 is stationed. The commander that plays a part in the story is here, and you'll be able to find him and talk to him, as well as random GU1 soldiers either doing patrol or training. I hit my mic twice in the middle of recording this. There's an exterior and an interior to this hub area also. The Chao Garden entrance will be touched upon later in the video when we actually talk about the Chao Garden. Why the fuck can't I say the word garden? What the fuck is wrong with me? Garden. When we talk about the Chao Garden. Fucking hell. The return of the hub worlds in this game would be a lot more fun and interesting than in previous games. Keep in mind, this idea for Metropolis came out long before Frontiers was even being talked about, so I guess this will be the game to see if they can really pull off something like this. Like I said a few seconds ago, the Chao Garden is getting its own section. The Chao Garden is my favorite piece of side content to be added into the series, and it sucks that it hasn't made a true reappearance since Sonic Adventure 2. Returning from Adventure 1 and 2, this is where you can raise various types of Chao as any of the playable characters. You can have up to 5 different gardens, with up to 10 Chao in each at once. The areas are pretty sizable, and there's tons of space to work with when it comes to customization. You can furnish the gardens with various items such as fountains, benches, toys, pools, etc. You can also place down statues of the characters that replicates their official art. All of these items can be bought from the black market hidden behind the big waterfall in the back of the garden. You can also purchase a music player for listening to the soundtrack, a TV set for watching the videos, and a photo album for viewing the art, which we'll elaborate on later. Why did I say wheel? Which I'll elaborate on later. That's what the script said. Seeing as how the hero and dark system isn't in this game, the actual mechanic of raising a hero or dark Chao isn't here, but the aesthetic for these Chao is here. And on top of that, there's a new level up system for them through the reincarnation feature. This being Child, Adult, Jewel, Soul, and Chaos. If you take care of a Chao, feeding it, playing with it, taking care of it when it's sick, and essentially just not neglecting or abusing it like some asshole out there would, when it dies, it'll reincarnate following the line that I listed earlier. I know this is different from how it works in the original Chao Garden, but I did this for a reason. This being so that you can continue to raise your Chao to reach the highest level for it. The different types of Chao, speed, fly, neutral, power, and swim, are also being re-implemented. If you focus on raising a Chao with a specific stat in mind, speed for example, then when it dies, it'll reincarnate as a speed-based Chao, and this goes for the other types as well. Chaos drives make a return, which you can get from defeating enemies, but instead of the animals, I had an alternate idea. Yes, the Wisps. Now, look, hear me out. I know people are sick of the Wisp, but if Iizuka is hell-bent on including these little shits in every game, might as well use them for something other than being forced power-ups. Which Wisp? That's not what that says. Each Wisp is used for leveling up the stats of your Chao, and even gives your Chao parts that resemble the Wisp, like the animals did. This is how they're... What? This is how they are distributed. Speed has laser, spikes, and lightning. Flight has eagle, hover, and asteroid. Power has Q, boulder, and bomb. Swim has drill, rocket, and frenzy. And stamina has void, rhythm, and burst. I know it seems weird, but I tried to have it make the most sense. These Wisps can also be found after defeating enemies or just roaming around in the stages. Another feature is the ability to get a Chao that looks like one of the characters. For example, if you primarily raise a Chao with silver, its chaos state will have it resemble silver. Another thing too is the different Chao you can raise. I wanted to include the different Chao that have been seen throughout the series. Shit like Ferox, Haida, or Spartoy, I think that's how you say that, Spartoy, which are all from Chronicles. I'd like to have more variety in the Chao that we can raise over the basic ones that we usually get. What's the point of all that stat raising if we can't use it for something, right? I want to talk about the minigames now. Adventure 2's racing and karate make a return, and pretty much function the exact same way, except for a new change. You actually get to control your Chao this time, instead of just watching them do the actions. Racing and karate aren't the only minigames this time around. Two new ones enter the scene, being hide and seek and dodgeball. Hide and seek has you playing as your Chao in the role of either the hider or the seeker. Hiders hide, obviously, and seekers seek, obviously. If a hider is found, they become seeker. They become a seeker alongside the original one, and if all the hiders are found before time runs out, the seekers win. But if there's even one hider left standing when time runs out, the hiders win. The hiders win. What the fuck? What is going on with me? Dodgeball puts Chao into teams. The goal is to knock out all the other team's members before time runs out. Each hit on the opponent team counts as a point, and it takes 3 hits to be fully knocked out. Whoever has the most members standing at the end or knocks out all the other team's members wins. I wanted to add 2 more minigames to the Chao Garden so that there's more variety when it comes to using your Chao stats, especially when it comes to the next feature. You can go online and fuck around in the Chao Garden with your friends. They can visit your garden, you can go visit theirs with the ability to run around the gardens as any of the playable characters, and there's a number of things you can do.
You can trade Chao with your friends, help them raise theirs and them help you raise yours, and you can compete in minigames. Something I've always wanted was the ability to experience the garden with my friends online, and this would be the game to deliver on that. The Chao Garden is a very important feature to me, and to this day, I'm still waiting for it to come back. When thinking about this idea, the very first thing I thought to myself was how I wanted to bring this back in, and how I would make it the definitive version of it. The Chao Garden isn't the only place in the game that has online multiplayer. I also wanted there to be online multiplayer as a part of the main game itself. And just like in Adventure 2, there's different games that can be played with your friends, each game having 3 additional characters. These include Stage Racing. Race up to 3 other friends as any of the playable characters through any of the stages. SBO, Metal Sonic, and Infinite would be the extra characters. Extreme Gear Racing. A rider-style racing minigame that has a similar control scheme to that of Riders in TSR. Race up to 7 friends in courses that resemble the stages. The Babylon Rogues would be the extra characters. Battle Arena. Battle up to 3 other friends as any of the playable characters in arenas themed after the stages. The last player standing is the winner. Vector, Mighty, and Chaos Zero would be the extra characters. Manhunt. Similar to Chao Hide and Seek, but you can have up to 7 other friends as any of the playable characters in a section off area of Metropolis. If the round ends and all the hiders haven't been found, the hiders win. If the seekers find all the hiders before time runs out, the seekers win. Honey, Tangle, and Tikal would be the extra characters. Team Enemy Barrage. Team up with up to 3 friends and try to take out as many enemies as possible within the given time limit. This mode has different difficulties, with time limits becoming stricter and the enemies becoming more challenging with each difficulty increase. General, Whisper, and Omega would be the extra characters. All of these modes are to add an extra level of fun to the online. Each game mode has a different number of players depending on how fitting it is for said mode, and the extra characters are also there to spice up the different modes as well. This segment is used to talk about anything extra that wouldn't really fall in line with any other categories. Let's start with the music. The main theme of the game would be the Zebrahead version of His World, really driving home the fact that this is a soft reboot. The soundtrack would have a similar style to 06, being that 06 is my favorite overall soundtrack of the entire series. The game would also have an animated intro that would play after the opening logos like in a Persona game. Being a staple of every mainline game since Colors, 5 Red Star rings would be littered throughout the stages, with 20 in Metropolis. Collecting all of them would allow you to play as Super Sonic, Super Shadow, and Super Silver in regular stages after collecting 50 rings. The ranking system is back, with S being the highest rank and E being the lowest. Getting an E rank will give you a shittily done version of the result screen theme. The ranking system works like 06's, with enemies playing a big part in needing at least 50,000 points in order to get an S rank. As stated before, the characters have new designs in this game, but if you wanted to, you can purchase new looks with rings that you can change into in Team Sonic HQ. Each character has their own set of customization options, and they're like actual fucking options and not whatever bullshit Colors Ultimate had. Using Sonic as an example again, you can give him his soap shoes, his classic shoes, his rider shoes, the Caliburn gauntlet, the Adventure 1 and 2 upgrades, stuff like that. During the Chao Garden segment, I mentioned a music player, a TV, and an album and what they do. To further elaborate, throughout the hub worlds and stages, you can find music CDs, VHS tapes, and pictures that hold the game's music, cutscenes and promotional videos, and concept art respectively. You can view all of these things through the aforementioned Chao Garden accessories in the gardens once you unlock them. Sprinkled throughout Metropolis and other hub worlds, civilians will have tasks that they need Sonic & Co.'s help with completing, being side quests. These range from taking out Eggman robots in one part of the city, to hunting down items, to playing one of the online minigames in Ken's CPU, stuff like that. A boss rush will also be there, being a gauntlet mode where you can take out the game's bosses one after the other. Can be played with any character. A time trial mode where you have to complete the stages within a certain time limit. Time limits vary depending on the stage. After completing the main story, you unlock Classic Mode, where you can play through the game again, but this time, it's stage to stage with the cutscenes in between for those who just want to get a move on during the second playthrough without fucking around in the hub world. Players can complete various character-specific challenges for rewards in Challenge Mode. Each character has 5, making a total of 45 challenges. Super Hard Mode unlocks after collecting all red rings, which allows you to play through super challenging versions of the stages and bosses. Collecting all of the red rings and S-ranking all the main stages and bosses will unlock the Classic Collection. This allows you to play Christian Whitehead versions of Sonic's 1, 2, and CD, as well as Sonic Mania Plus, and something I would want, Sonic 3 and Knuckles Air. I know the classic games are being thrown in our faces so much at this point, but I think this would be a valid reward. Plus, I had this idea before Sonic Origins was announced, so like, I'm cooler. Last but not least, 100% in the game, plus getting an S rank on everything, every main stage, every main boss, challenge mode, time trial, super hard mode, and the boss rush will unlock a special extra stage for each individual character, with each of them being redesigned for said character. Sonic gets Green Hill, Shadow gets Radical Highway, Silver gets Crisis City, Tails gets Windy Valley, Knuckles gets Sky Sanctuary, Amy gets Palm Tree Panic, Cream gets Music Plant, Rouge gets Casino Park, and Blaze gets Water Palace. This is to pay homage to Adventure 2, even though I don't like that game, giving you the Green Hill stage for essentially 100%ing the game. In terms of everything else, I know it sounds like a lot, but this is to give players more things to do outside of the main story, which I'm always down for. And that, my N-words, was my big and extremely unrealistic idea for a Sonic game. I know there's a lot in here, and I'm fully aware that if Sega were to ever pick this up, like half of this shit would not be included, but I'm okay with that. This is just a fun thing that I wanted to do. As a passionate Sonic fan, for better or for worse, I have my own ideas for what I want to see from this franchise. Do I think this game, if done correctly, would be the best Sonic game ever made? No, I don't actually, but it would be my favorite, most definitely. I would want this game to be a love letter to Sonic fans, just like Mania was back in 2017, or like how Spider-Man was a love letter to Spider-Man fans, but most importantly, I would just want a good Sonic game that's fun to play and is filled to the brim with fun content. And I think, if done correctly, I created just that, but hey, that's just me. Over 8,000 words later, I can definitely say that this is my longest video yet, but hey, YouTube thrives off that kind of shit. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. There are more videos like this to come in the future, seeing as how I have a lot of ideas in my head, and I want to share them with you all. I wanted to take a second to thank every artist for their amazing work on SCA, and once again, their Twitters will be linked in the description below, and please go check out their work. And also go check out the actual SCA project, which is also linked down below. As for what's next, depending on when this video comes out, Kirby and the Forgotten Land might be right around the corner, and that's what I plan to look at next. So until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.
Darkness, endless, despair, feel no more coldness, broken, no sound, feel no pain, capture, helpless, outmade, dreadful.